Hello everyone, it's the Mecha Mustangs, and today we will be going over our Robot Skills Challenge data collector. So what this does is it will automatically report the scores for us that we input into this Google form into a spreadsheet and average it out for us into a chart. So for our September robot runs, as you can clearly see, Nick and Andrew got an average of about 37. And the way this works is all that we have to do is go to the form page, put in who ran, and what score they got, and then click submit. And then it will then bring you to this page, and you can then submit another response, who ran, and what score they got. So it's very, very easy to use, and very, very simple to create. So you're going to want to go to docs.google.com/forms and create a new blank spreadsheet. And then you should come up with this. So the first thing I prefer you to do is probably not preview, but to change the color of your form. I prefer this blue color because 1 is the color of our school, 2 is the color of the main VEX IQ color. So to get started, you're going to want to name this, most likely, October Robot Run Data. And if you want, you can put in a form description. So, first question you're going to want to create needs to be a multiple choice question, and it needs to be who ran. So, let's take, for example, that you have 4 different people in your group. You have Nick, Braden, Scott, and Max. So, you need to create an option for all the different possibilities of runs in your groups. And the way that you can do this easily is to start with one person and all the possibilities that they can run with. Max can run with Scott. Max can then also run with Nick. And Max can also run with Braden. So those are all the different possibilities that Max can run with. Then, say we want to do them for Scott. Scott can run with Nick. And Scott can run with Braden. And the reason that we didn't put Max for one of the possibilities of Scott is because Max and Scott already run up here at the top. So as you can see, each time we do a person, it's subtracting all the different possibilities by 1. And then, so by the time we get to all the different possibilities for Braden, the only person that he can run with that we have not written down yet would be Nick. So these are all the different possibilities of people who can possibly run. So as you get a larger team, as you can see on here, you're going to have to put more and more and more possibilities. But about the average size would probably be 4 or 5, so you shouldn't have to get too long. And I prefer that you get rid of this other option because there shouldn't be any other people running in your group. You make the question, and you also need to make the question required. After you do that, you're pretty much done with this question. So you're going to want to create a new question, come down here, and then you're going to want to create a question called, what was the score? So instead of just making multiple choice questions with all the different possible scores, we're going to create a short answer. You're going to want to make it required, and then you're going to want to make a data validation and make a number less than, actually let's do less than or equal to about 80. And then custom error text, you don't have to put, but I prefer you say too high of a score. So that way, if somebody puts a score greater than 80, it's going to say that it's too high of a score and you need to put a score lower than what you put. So the reason that we do a short answer is, yet again, to save you time so that we don't have to do a giant multiple choice one. And because it's just a whole lot easier to not have to search for it and have to click it. It's just a whole lot easier to type, okay, we got 41. So after you do that, you're pretty much done with the entire form. So if you come up here and click preview, it'll give you an example that you can fill out of what your form would look like. So you can scroll down and say Scott and Braden ran, and they got a score of about 40. And then all you have to do is click submit. And then whenever you get to here, just click submit another response. And then say Scott and Nick ran again, and they got a score of about 38 maybe. And then Max and Scott ran and got a score of 20. And Max and Scott ran again and got a score of 41 this time. So let's just put in a couple more options, or a couple more inputs, so that way you can get the full idea of how the averaging works once we get further into this example. So let's do one for Braden and Nick. And then another one for Braden and Nick. There we go. I say that's enough. So whenever you're done, you can just exit out of that tab. So now if we come here, there have been 6 responses on our form. So you can just come over here, look how many times each person ran. Like Braden and Nick, for example, have ran 33.3 times out of all the different runs that we have done this month. And here are all the different scores that have been inputted. So if you want, you can come over here, click individual, and see each individual score. Like Scott and Braden got a score of 40. But this isn't too helpful because you have to sift through them all and add them all together and total them, and it's just a whole mess of stuff. So to save time, you need to come up here and click Create Spreadsheet. You're going to most likely want to call it Score Average. Now I know that's not how you abbreviate average, but it's close enough for this example, so do not copy that. So if you create that spreadsheet, it's going to open up a new tab which has all this in it: who ran, what timestamp it was, and what was the score. So it's a whole lot easier to see now that Scott and Braden got a score of 40. And it's all in one giant clump, so it's a whole lot easier to read. But like I said, it's still not averaged out. So what we need to do to fix that problem is you need to click Insert, and then come down and click Chart. So whenever you insert chart, you're going to come up with this whole variety of options. And I suggest that you come to Chart Types, scroll down, and choose a column chart. Now, whenever you create a column chart, you're probably going to see all these different lines everywhere. Now, just don't worry about that. If you don't like those, you can just simply make it a bar graph. And probably also going to want to switch rows columns, or something like that. Depends on how you want it. So after you do that, and like I said earlier, if you don't like those giant lines coming across, you can just simply click this button, and it'll get rid of those. So, as you can see, we necessarily don't want to see what was the score versus the timestamp, because that's really useless to us. So, here's where you can change where it's getting the data from. And to make it a whole lot easier, just click this Select Data Range button. It's going to bring up this nice little pop-up menu. And you're most likely going to want to get data from B and C, which is who ran and what was the score. So you're going to want to change this capital A to a capital B, make it all the way from B2. So B2 all the way to C7, which is already at. So that means that it's pretty much doing area, I guess. And it's taking the area from here to here and all the data that was put into this area. So that means that it's doing all of these responses in the chart. So if we click OK really fast, it will then make a chart of what we put in. So if we click Insert, that should update it. And then, as you can see, the title stays the same. So you will most likely need to change the title. But, as you can see, it's saying that Scott and Nick, all their score averaged together was a total of about 38. Max and Scott got a total score of about 61, and Braden and Nick got a total score of about, I would say that's 69. So, yet again, that's not too useful for you because you don't want to see their total scores. So, I'm going to want to click down here, click Advanced Edit, come to Customization, scroll all the way down, and click this, the aggregate type, I would guess that is, and it's set on Sum. So you're going to want to change that to any of these that you want, but I prefer average if you want to see the average score. Then that's going to update the chart, so that way it shows the average score. So if we update that, as you can see, the average score of Scott and Nick is about 38. The average for Max and Scott is very, very low at about probably a 32 maybe. And then the average score for Braden and Nick was a pretty decent 35. So as you can see, this is pretty much all that you need. And sometimes it doesn't reset the title, so you might want to change that to the score or something like that. So this is pretty useful if you want to make your job as a team a whole lot easier, and this is very, very helpful. So thanks a whole lot to Google. So one thing that you need to note is whenever you insert a new score, it will input that score at 8. So if we were to come over here really fast, yes. So if we come over here, click the preview button again, and scroll down, let's put in a score for Scott and Nick, and say they got 41. So if we come back over here, it hasn't updated yet, so we're going to need to reload it really fast. So if we let that reload, as you can see, it then put in that data at section 8. So as you can see, it hasn't yet updated it for Scott and Nick. So here's how you fix that. You actually have to do this part manually. You have to come over here, go to Advanced Edit, scroll down, and then, not scroll down, sorry. You're going to want to come Chart Types and change C to C8. And every time you do that, you're going to have to change it. So sorry about that, but that's something that Google hasn't quite fixed yet. You can experiment around with that and see if you can find a way to not have to do that, but for now, that's the only way that I could find. So as you can see, it then updated the average score for Scott and Nick, and it's now about a 40, I would guess. So this is pretty much all. Hopefully you all enjoyed. Maybe this will help you out as a team, and yes, hope you enjoyed. Another thing that I want to mention is that you can just simply copy and paste this entire thing for the next couple of months if you would like. So, like I said, hope you all enjoyed. Maybe this will help your team out. And this has been the Mecha Mustangs VEX team, hoping that you will have a great day.